Let me bring in on this broadcast Brinda Adige, women's rights activist. We also have Mr. Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court. Mr. Hegde, I'd like to begin with you. Good evening. Just explain to us, Mr. Hegde, why this case sets a great precedent. In a matter of 14 months, we've seen a crackdown against a hugely influential figure and a conviction happening with the fastest, processing of evidence and the trial moving super fast.
Well, Mr. Revanna, as a former MP, there are judgments of the Supreme Court directing that cases involving politicians should be heard and decided fast. In this case, there has been a clean investigation. The investigation has unearthed a lot of evidence which Mr. Revanna himself created, because all those videos were obviously taken by him or somebody else at his behest, and they were available to the investigators. So you had the testimony of the victim herself, which is corroborated both by electronic evidence as well as by physical evidence. As a consequence, it is not surprising that when the evidence is totaled up, he has been convicted. There are 4 other cases also, I believe, and each of them there may be separate sentences. So that would really put him away for a long time on the basis of his convictions.
We're often very, very critical of the judiciary, but in this particular case, it's because of the fact that we have these kind of provisions to ensure that the likes of MPs and MLAs face justice when they're involved in these kind of cases, that you've seen how fast and expedited this trial was. Brinda Adige, for someone like Prajwal Revanna, hugely influential, member of parliament, belongs to the first family of JDS, the fact that he's been convicted in 1 of 4 rape cases is sending out a very clear message that no one will be spared. You're involved in these kind of grave crimes, you will pay the price.
Absolutely. It's a breath of fresh air. And like you mentioned, once in a while you get a case like this that restores our faith in the judiciary, that restores our faith in the system, that there are some people who will uphold constitutional rights, but more than that, follow through with the law. Because we know that these cases are there, these kinds of cases are there across India. And like you mentioned, he is a very, very powerful person. And something like this has been happening for many, many years. There have been whispers. If you have your ear to the ground, you know that there have been whispers from many people. You also mentioned that he broke down in court. Him and his family must know that they broke down and shattered hundreds of families, hundreds of women, who cannot even go back to their village, because these people also have a lot of supporters. And these supporters are on the ground and they don't spare women. And all the time they will keep saying that, this woman provoked, that woman's character was like this, and that is why he is not at fault. And I'm hoping and praying that he doesn't get any kind of parole or like Ram Rahim, who keeps coming out every 10-20 days. He must not get something like that. He must serve his sentence. And what must go across very strongly is you can come and report. And there are people out there, the police, the prosecution, and the judges, who will ensure that these people are brought to book, that they will be punished and serve that punishment. Because serving the punishment is another challenge. We also know that many people get away. And when they get away, they come back out, and the victim, who might also be the witness, then has no longer anything to hold on to. Their lives are also shattered further. So the system has to look after the victim and the survivors who are out here now, plus ensure that this man serves his sentence fully. And I hope he serves it one after another, so that he remains in jail for a very long time.
Right now we're setting a great example in the fact that we've seen Prajwal being convicted in a matter of 14 months. And you're right in pointing out that on one hand, you have someone who's so influential politically and otherwise, and up against him are all of these victims who kept quiet for years together, worried about the consequences if they spoke out. They finally got the courage to speak out. And this case itself, the fact that he's been convicted in the rape of his house help, tells you what kind of bravery and courage it must have taken for her family to finally speak out about the torture and abuse that she's faced at the hands of Prajwal Revanna for the last many years. But Mr. Hegde, looking at the details that have emerged of this particular case and the others, what really to you, sir, would be the maximum punishment that Prajwal Revanna could actually face?
Well, in rape cases, it could be anything upwards of 10 years. And given the circumstances, it could even be a life imprisonment. But as I told you earlier, each of those 4 cases which are being prosecuted, they are separate acts. They are not acts within the same series of transactions so as to qualify for concurrent sentences. Sentences, for, if there are convictions in each of these matters, would necessarily have to be consecutive. So even if it is 10 years in each case, it might end up with a 40-year sentence to be undergone.
Okay. And also, just to, also take forward the question that Brinda Adige asked, which is a concern that most citizens have. They say that, look, someone this powerful may have been convicted, but they always have the courts available to them, which is why they get paroles, they get furloughs, they get breaks that normal convicts don't. What's your response to that, Mr. Hegde? How is there any guarantee that when you look at the serious charges against Prajwal Revanna, that will essentially ensure that he doesn't get these kind of breaks?
Well, Ram Rahim was mentioned. The authority that grants parole is the government of the day. In Ram Rahim's case, it is quite obvious that there are a lot of votes involved. Here also, on similar conditions, if there is a different government where votes are required, I can't give a guarantee that there will never be parole. And parole often is used when people grow old, people need medical help, or there is something in the family, death or a wedding. Those times, parole is for a very limited period is granted. But consecutive paroles like the one that we are seeing from the Haryana government, that is an oddity. And maybe at some point of time, some court will have to look at it.
Well, we definitely hope that's the case, that it is and remains an oddity right now. The likes of Prajwal Revanna, of course, are facing justice. The first step, at least, towards justice is being realized here in this particular case. Brinda Adige, the allegation here is not just against Prajwal Revanna. His father, HD Revanna, also accused, named in a kidnapping case related to Prajwal Revanna, related to shielding him. Are you hopeful seeing this conviction that in all the other cases related to Prajwal Revanna, and for that matter as family members, we will finally see action?
That is going to be doubtful, but let us hope that we have strong progressive judges who will ensure that the case that has been brought before them is fast-tracked and the father is also punished. And I think there was another person also who was convicted, who was brought to book. A case was registered, but nothing much happened. Again, we need to understand that the victim survivors are still out there. They keep getting called to the court, and that is why these cases get delayed. And what is the message that must go very strongly across is women must come up and speak, which means communities and families must support them. They must not cast aspersions on women and say, why did you come so late? Why did you not inform that time? Because here the power equation is absolutely skewed. There's no way a woman can come immediately and speak up. She is also waiting to see what is the kind of support that she will get. And often we as families and communities and mechanisms that are out there to protect and safeguard do not extend that kind of support to them. And that is why it becomes such a challenge that we are expecting the court to do something. When many times, there was also somewhere that one of the women who was being questioned, or when her statement was being made at CID, there was some kind of an intimidation. So, we do have these kind of officers here and there, and that might break a case, and it may not be a watertight case that comes up there. So it is important that the coordination and the collaboration, everybody is equally accountable to ensure that they bring the culprit to book. Not only that, they extend that support to the victim survivors and their families. It's so difficult, getting even the victim compensation. It's extremely difficult. There are no funds with the
Of
government.
course.
So when you
Yeah.
look at all of these things, we are happy at one end that somebody has looked at all of this and is going to now have this punishment pronounced for them. But the long drawn case is still for the victim survivor who has to bear the consequences for the rest of their lives.
But the reality is, at least in this case, where the woman finally got the courage to speak out, file this case against Prajwal Revanna, there has been justice. He's been convicted. The allegation is that from 2021, Prajwal Revanna has allegedly sexually assaulted many, many women, and many of them haven't had the courage to come out and speak about what's happened. Hopefully, with this conviction, many of them will now speak out about what they've undergone, what they've endured. Mr. Sanjay Hegde, Brinda Adige, thank you very much for your time and for joining us here on India Today.